In 2025, this season had some historic losers.
The season that once started 8-2 will now end without a postseason.
From individual disasters to complete team-wide meltdowns, these are the 10 NFL teams and players that made the wrong kind of history in 2025. Myles Garrett, sack record on a terrible team. Myles Garrett had arguably the greatest defensive season in NFL history this year. He was a monster all year, posting 23 sacks despite the team regularly being down and the opposing offense not being forced into many passing situations. Doing so, he broke the 22.5 record that Michael Strahan and TJ Watt have shared since 2021. Garrett also became the first player ever with 12 or more sacks in 6 consecutive seasons, and the only player with 10 or more in 8 straight years. And with all that, the Browns still went 5-12. And somehow, the season felt even more hopeless than that. This was Garrett's 7th losing season in Cleveland since they drafted him first overall back in 2017. 7 years. 7 losing seasons. The man broke the all-time sack record, and it didn't move the needle even a bit. He did everything humanly possible on his end, but Cleveland's issues ran so much deeper than anything one player could fix. The offensive line was a disaster. The quarterback situation was a mess, and ownership, well, it continues to make decisions that leave fans scratching their heads. Carolina Panthers, first team to win 2 division titles with losing records. The Carolina Panthers had a unique 2025 season. It started off looking like it might be a complete disaster, but they found some mid-season magic and managed to sneak into the playoffs through the back door. After all, the Panthers won the NFC South with an 8-9 record. But here's the kicker. This is the second time Carolina has done this. They also won the NFC South at 7-8-1 back in 2014. That makes them the very first franchise in NFL history to win multiple division titles with a losing record. That's the kind of magic that can only happen in the NFC South. Indianapolis Colts, 8-2 to 8-9. Leave it to the Indianapolis Colts to put on display one of the greatest collapses in NFL history. Indy started the season 8-2, and were the talk of the town. It was their best start since going 10-0 in 2009, the year that they reached Super Bowl 44. Daniel Jones signing was looking like a good send. Everything was clicking. Everyone was signing their paces. And it looked like they were going to be one of the first teams to have a playoff spot locked up again. Then they lost. They lost again and again. 7 straight losses to close out the season. The Colts became the first team in NFL history to start 8-2 and finish with a losing record. Now, technically, this was only possible because of the 17th game that was added in 2021, as before that, an 8-2 team couldn't mathematically finish below 500. But I mean, still, 7 straight losses? How the heck does that happen? Oh wait, only the Colts could pull off a collapse of this magnitude. Cam Ward, 6 sacks in his NFL debut. His first game against Denver was supposed to be the beginning of a new era in Tennessee. Instead, he got sacked 6 times, tying David Carr for the record in an NFL debut. Not exactly the company that you want to find yourself in. His actual performance wasn't much better either. Ward completed just 12 of 28 passes for 112 yards, 0 touchdowns. And to make matters worse, he fumbled on one of those sacks late in the game, which pretty much sealed the 20-12 loss. Hey, welcome to the NFL, kid. Now, to be fair, this wasn't entirely on Ward. The Titans' offensive line was so bad that they fired both head coach Brian Callahan and offensive line coach Bill Callahan mid-season. Ward finished the year with 55 sacks, tied for the most in the league, and early in the season, he was actually on pace for 72, which would have threatened Randall Cunningham's 1986 record of 76. Spencer Rattler started his career 0-10. Back in 2020, Spencer Rattler was the 5-star recruit at Oklahoma that everyone was buzzing about. The next great college quarterback, future first-round pick. And then things kind of went sideways. He lost his starting job to Caleb Williams, transferred to South Carolina, and his stock just cratered. The Saints still took a chance on him, and he rewarded them by joining a historically bad group of quarterbacks that went winless in their first 10 career starts. Rattler went 0-6 as a starter in 2024, then 0-4 to start 2025. That's 0-10 to begin his NFL career, one of only 8 quarterbacks in league history to do so. Coincidentally, a list that includes his predecessor in New Orleans, Derek Carr. Now, to be fair, the roster around him wasn't exactly stacked. I mean, Carr's retirement left New Orleans scrambling at the position. Kellen Moore was trying to figure things out in his first year as a head coach, and Rattler, well, he got his first win against the Giants later on in the season. But, regardless, the damage was done. Shedeur Sanders, worst QBR in Cleveland Browns history. You know the 2017 Cleveland Browns? The ones that went 0-16? Well, Shedeur Sanders had a worse QBR than any quarterback on that team. Sanders was supposed to be the answer. The highly touted and controversial pick in the 2025 draft had all the makings of a franchise quarterback. The missing piece that Cleveland has been searching for since, well, I guess since forever. The hype was very real, and then he posted an 18.9 QBR, the fifth worst among 696 quarterbacks with 200 or more passes since 2006. Is Sanders a bust? Genuinely hard to say. I mean, the situation was so bad that I think any quarterback would have struggled. But still, posting a worse QBR than the 0-16 Browns quarterbacks? Ooh. That's the kind of stat that's going to follow him until he proves otherwise. Gino Smith, most sacked and most interceptions. If there's one thing that we've learned about Gino Smith over the years, it's that his career never goes the way anyone expects. After reviving his career in Seattle, Smith got traded to Las Vegas in March to reunite with Pete Carroll, who had taken over as Raiders head coach. Everyone thought that it might be a nice second chapter, Gino finally getting another shot with a coach who believed in him. Instead, he led the NFL in two categories nobody wants to lead: 55 sacks taken, 17 interceptions thrown. Eesh, talk about a two-headed monster. Smith threw 10 of those interceptions in his first 6 games alone. Now been sacked 102 times over the last 2 seasons, more than any quarterback in football during that stretch. The Raiders went 3-14, giving them just 6 combined wins over the last 2 years. That is back-to-back 13-plus loss seasons for the first time in franchise history. At this point, you have to wonder what's next for Smith. Justin Fields, minus 10 net passing yards. While there was optimism coming into the year around Justin Fields joining the Jets, that experiment quickly went belly up. There may be no more poignant example than their October showdown with the Broncos in London, England. We ain't gonna bury the lead on this one. Fields finished the game with minus 10 net passing yards. Yeah, you heard that right. Negative 10 yards. The Jets signed Fields in the offseason, hoping that he'd stabilize a quarterback room that had been in chaos since the Aaron Rodgers situation imploded. Instead, Fields put together what many called one of the worst quarterback performances in NFL history. He was sacked 9 times. 9. And when you factor in sack yardage, his net passing output went into the negatives. The Jets somehow only lost 13-11 despite their quarterback producing less than 0 through the air. Was Fields set up to fail? Yeah, probably. But at a certain point, the quarterback has to make something happen. New York Jets secondary, 0 interceptions all season. Speaking of the Jets making history for all the wrong reasons, New York Jets became the first team in NFL history to go an entire season without recording a single interception. Since interceptions became an official stat in 1933, 92 years of professional football, and no team has ever done this. Leave it to the Jets. The previous record was held by the 2018 49ers, who managed just 2 picks all season. Jets couldn't even do that. 17 games, 0 interceptions. No wonder the season was such an unmitigated disaster. Some franchises find creative ways to lose. The Jets turned it into an art form. Dallas Cowboys defense, 511 points allowed. Oof, tough year for Jerry Jones. Watching the Dallas Cowboys allow 511 points this season after he parted ways with Micah Parsons, the team's best defensive player in dramatic fashion ahead of the season. That's the first time in 66 years of franchise history that they exceeded 500 points allowed. They averaged 30.1 points against per game. Also a franchise record. They gave up 30 or more points in 9 different games. Gotta love Jerry's quote-unquote reasoning at the time, which was that they needed to rebuild around younger, cheaper talent. Yeah! Rebuild's going great. Dallas finished 29th in defensive rankings. They forced just 11 turnovers, 3rd worst in the league. They committed 133 penalties, the most in the NFL. Defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus was fired mid-season. The team went 7-9-1 under first-year head coach Brian Schottenheimer, despite having an awesome offense. Jerry Jones has always believed that he can outsmart the rest of the league when it comes to personnel decisions. But man, trading away your best defensive player and then allowing 511 points? Well, That's the kind of result that just sort of speaks for itself. But hey, which of these do you think was the most historic? What do you think we're right on here? What do you think we're wrong about? Was there anything notable that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.